When people think about Canada, they often imagine snow, politeness, and endless wilderness. And while that image isn't wrong, it barely scratches the surface. The more I learned about Canada, the more I realized how quietly extraordinary this country really is. It doesn't shout about its greatness. It doesn't need to. Canada just exists at a scale and balance that feels almost unreal once you start paying attention. It's hard to even comprehend how vast Canada truly is. Standing on a map, it looks enormous, but understanding it intellectually is different from feeling it. Canada is the second largest country on Earth, stretching across more land than most people will ever see in their lifetime. And yet, despite all that space, so few people live there compared to its size. Whole regions feel untouched, silent, almost timeless. You can drive for hours and see nothing but forests, lakes, and sky. It gives you this strange sense of humility, like the land itself is reminding you that humans are just visitors here. And those lakes, they're everywhere. Canada doesn't just have a lot of lakes, it has more than the rest of the world combined. Over 2 million of them. Think about that for a moment. Millions of bodies of water reflecting the sky, hiding beneath forests, frozen solid in winter, alive with color in summer. About 1/5 of all the planet's fresh water is held within Canada's borders. In a world where water is becoming more precious every year, that fact alone makes Canada one of the most important countries on Earth, whether people realize it or not. Forests dominate the landscape as well. Roughly a third of all forests in the Northern Hemisphere are in Canada. These aren't just trees, they're living systems, absorbing carbon, regulating climate, and providing a home to countless species. When you walk through a Canadian forest, there's a stillness that feels almost sacred. It's the kind of silence that makes you lower your voice without even realizing why. You start to understand why nature is such a strong part of Canadian identity. Canada is also defined by water in another way, its coastline. It's the longest on the planet, stretching across 3 oceans: Atlantic, Pacific, Arctic. No other country touches so much ocean. That means fishing villages, icy cliffs, remote islands, and shorelines that barely any human has ever stepped on. It feels like Canada is constantly in conversation with the sea, even in places most people will never visit. Despite the enormous distances between cities and communities, Canadians tend to live long lives. Life expectancy here consistently ranks among the highest in the world, and the more you think about it, the more meaningful that becomes. It suggests a kind of balance that isn't accidental, a balance between work and rest, between ambition and well-being, between progress and patience. Healthcare is accessible, education is valued, communities feel stable. There's less of a constant rush, less pressure to always be moving faster than everyone else. Canada feels like a place where life is meant to be experienced, not chased. A place where people still believe that living well matters just as much as succeeding. Maple syrup might sound like a cliché at first, almost like a joke people repeat about Canada. But when you look closer, surprised, it's surprisingly poetic. Over 70% of the world's maple syrup comes from this country, mostly from Quebec, and the process behind it hasn't changed much in centuries. Entire forests are tapped every spring, following rhythms that existed long before modern industry, before factories and deadlines and mass production. The sap flows slowly. It's collected patiently. Nothing is rushed. And somehow, that process feels like a perfect reflection of Canadian culture itself. Taking time, respecting nature, working with it rather than against it, and creating something simple and sweet through consistency and care. Cold is not just a season in Canada. It's part of the country's identity in a way few other places truly understand. The coldest temperature ever recorded in North America happened here, -63 degrees Celsius. At temperatures like that, everything changes. Sound feels sharper. The air feels heavier. Machines struggle. Your breath freezes in front of you. Survival becomes something you think about constantly, not dramatically, but practically. And yet, people live there. They raise families. They build homes. They form communities that don't just survive the cold, they adapt to it. That kind of resilience isn't loud or heroic. It's quiet, learned over generations, shaped by experience rather than pride. Wildlife in Canada isn't locked away behind fences or distant parks. Animals are part of everyday life in many regions. Moose wander onto roads without warning. Bears appear near towns. Wolves howl just beyond the glow of city lights. Whales surface along coastlines close enough to be seen from shore. Living here means understanding that humans aren't the center of everything. Nature isn't something to be dominated, it's something to coexist with. That relationship creates a different mindset, one based on awareness, respect, and humility. In Canada, people don't act like rulers of the land. They act like guests. Education shapes this country in a powerful way. More than 60% of adults have post-secondary education, one of the highest rates anywhere in the world. Learning isn't treated as luxury or status. It's treated as responsibility. Education builds trust. It builds stability. It creates a population that understands systems, consequences, and long-term thinking. And that's why progress here feels measured rather than reckless. Change happens, but it's usually thoughtful, deliberate, sustainable. Quietly, without demanding attention, Canada has influenced the world in unexpected ways. Basketball, one of the most popular sports on the planet, was invented by a Canadian. What started as a simple idea to keep students active indoors became a global language spoken in arenas across every continent. Millions of people play it, watch it, and love it, often without realizing its origins. And that feels very Canadian. Contributing something meaningful to the world without insisting on recognition. Canada's financial system reflects the same mindset. During global financial crises, when economies panicked and banks collapsed elsewhere, Canada remained stable. Conservative regulations, careful planning, long-term thinking. It wasn't dramatic, it didn't dominate headlines, but it worked. And sometimes, reliability is far more impressive than spectacle. Stability doesn't look exciting, but it holds everything together. Even Canada's infrastructure tells stories. Yonge Street, often described as the longest street in the world, stretches across immense distances, connecting cities, towns, and communities. It feels symbolic of the country itself, long, steady, patient, connecting people across space rather than rushing them forward. It's not about speed, it's about connection. And then there's the beaver. At first it sounds almost funny, but in some regions there truly are more beavers than people. The beaver isn't just a symbol stamped on coins or logos. It represents persistence, adaptability, hard work, living in harmony with the environment. Traits that echo throughout Canadian culture again and again. The beaver builds, adjusts, survives, quietly. Canada doesn't shout about who it is. It doesn't compete for attention. It doesn't rush to prove itself. It simply exists, vast, calm, resilient. And the longer you sit with that idea, the more you realize how rare it is in a world that's constantly demanding noise, speed, and spectacle. Canada's strength is its quiet confidence. And once you notice it, you never quite forget it. Canada is a country that rewards patience. The more you slow down and listen, the more it reveals. And once it does, it stays with you. Thanks for staying until the end, and as always, stay curious.